Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Two Spot Monkeys Live. Happy to have you join us. This is what you do when you don't edit your podcast. You just roll with it. Here again this week, and thanks for returning back to us after a short hiatus because of the real life stuff that both I and Jim just have on our plates as we were kind of just debriefing about some of those things off air before we joined for this recording. I'm Tom,
joined
as always, as I mentioned, by Jim. Jim, hey, how are you?
I am doing well today, Tom. How are you?
Awesome. It just, again, navigating the busyness of all of the things that we are involved in. So nothing bad. It's all good. And you just put one foot in front of the other. So glad for a few minutes here today and this episode to just get away from reality for a few minutes and talk about one of our passions, being pro wrestling.
Absolutely. It's always good to be with you, but always good to take that, hour or whatever we have and, just talk about something that shouldn't be super serious. It should be fun. And while we can lament and whine about certain things, it's still a passion project for us and just something fun to turn my brain off. I always say pro wrestling is a vice, I guess, in my life. Like, I don't drink to excess. I've never done drugs. I don't smoke. I watch pro wrestling. Like, I think I'm okay.
Pro wrestling to excess.
Yes, when life allows. You and I both in our past life, before, having to be adults and all that kind of good stuff, fully consumed a lot of pro wrestling, and we still consume a lot, honestly, comparatively, but not as much maybe as we once did. Anyways, that could be a whole nother episode, and we ain't got time for that. So
well, and I appreciate that you mentioned whining in that open for yourself, because we're gonna transition to something I want to whine about, and that's our current initial head-to-head standings. Again, we picked. It actually worked out in our favor. I think we actually picked every single match that did take place.
We did.
We had to do Rumble picks a little bit early. Neither of us wavered. There was nothing I saw on what I watched that would have caused me to change my picks. And so after Rumble, you are out of the gate undefeated at 5-0. I am 4-1. Our difference being the women's Royal Rumble match and the winner. So congrats for the early lead, Jim. This is not a trend I want to continue. So I hope with today, the bulk of our episode will be talking about Vengeance Day and making picks there that I can bring us at least even, or perhaps even pull ahead of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll take a 5-0 to start, right? I mean, why would one complain about getting them all right? But yeah, we only had that one difference. And you didn't, make any sort of a crazy pick, on that one. I mean, you picked Becky Lynch, and she's as likely as anybody. I am curious where Becky's going to end up at Mania. Like, can they stretch the Bayley thing to Mania? I don't know.
Well, and not only that, do they do a 6-woman? Do they do Damage Control versus Becky and 2 allies?
Yeah,
seems a little weird. Plus, if they were to keep the titles on Damage Control too, like to not have a title match at WrestleMania for those titles, seems weird. Again, we're getting way before anything. So
right, but it's kind of fun to be able to talk about that and not know 100% where they're going to at WrestleMania yet, which is fun, I think, in this. So kind of Rumble reactions. I'll run through the results real quick. Cody Rhodes wins the Rumble. I think it's interesting that the men's Rumble just starts the whole thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. Cody Rhodes wins the Rumble. The Pitch Black match was next. Bray Wyatt beat LA Knight in like 4 minutes. Like, it was not very long. And it was interesting. We'll talk about that. Raw Women's title, Bianca over Alexa, and more Uncle Howdy shenanigans there. The Women's Rumble then was next with Rhea Ripley, obviously, as we just said, getting that win. And then the undisputed Universal title match, Reigns over Owens. And then the aftermath of that I think we're going to want to spend a minute or so on. So men's Rumble opens the show. I think that was maybe... I didn't see that coming, to be perfectly honest. And I actually thought as I watched it on Sunday, oh, maybe Cody doesn't win this thing. And it also told me The Rock was not going to be in it at that moment, because there's no way you open the show and have The Rock in the Rumble. So that would have been the main event. Period. End of sentence. I don't know. What do you think when you heard the announcer say, this is the Men's Royal Rumble opening?
Yeah, I admit as well to being surprised and then excited as well. And I was like, okay. And like, again, I wasn't thinking of like all of the matches on the card and like what my main event, but I just think by default, I think enter this event going, oh, well, one of the Rumble matches has to finish, right? But it didn't, the flow was not at all anything other than really, really good in the way they presented it. And knowing what we know now with how the show ended and with the Reigns and Owens and the Bloodline stuff, I think it played out really, 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 really well.
Yeah, I kind of figured a Rumble match would open just because you want to space those out a little bit. But I thought it would be the women's. And in fact, I almost wondered until he announced the first, competitor, I almost wonder if he misspoke. And I was like waiting for a woman to come out and everybody be like, oh, that was funny. He said Men's Rumble and, here comes Carmella or whatever. It wasn't Carmella, but yeah. And clearly it was not. I thought the Men's Rumble was fun. I know there have been some people that said they didn't like it. I don't know. I liked it. Sometimes the obvious thing is the right thing. And I think that this was a case of that. Cody winning made the most sense all the way along. Just totally made the most sense. And I thought they told a great story with Gunther. Gunther looked like a beast throughout that thing. I mean, he was in it the entire time. And Triple H made the comment in the press conference I read anyways later. I never watched the press conference, but that Gunther never just like blended into the background in the match. Like he was always a prominent piece of what was going on in the match. And he's right. He was. And to do that for 70 plus minutes, crazy. Holy crap. I thought Gunther was great. Logan Paul was I don't know if you can call Logan Paul a surprise, because I think it's kind of like, well, yeah, that would make sense that he's there for the big shows. But they hadn't announced him before. So that was, a little bit of a surprise. Booker T, okay, whatever. It's in Texas, fine. I like that their roster is deep enough that they didn't have to lean into a ton of legends like they've done before in both the men's and the women's Rumble. You got a little sprinkling of some people, but then you didn't need all of that either. And Edge came back and, all that good stuff. So I like the men's Rumble personally.
Yeah, I thought we definitely would see Edge. So we did, I was not surprised. I did not have Logan Paul on my bingo card, so I would have not won there. But again, I agree with you. I think it fits great. Booker T being like regional, like so. The thing will be to watch, perhaps from an interesting slant, is do they skew to have more of like the legend or the special appearance be more hometown based wherever the Rumble is. Like, so again, in my opinion, you look at the men's, it's Booker T, of course. Then you look at the women's, you had Roxanne Perez and then Michelle McCool. Roxanne, of course, being from Texas, training under Booker T, and then Michelle McCool, I think, living in Texas because she's Taker's wife. So those were interesting. The one surprise that I expected that I didn't see was Matt Riddle. And I don't know where he's at with things. And I would have thought, again, I don't know enough to know enough, but the information that I read online was he had a performance enhancing or drug of abuse suspension. He was away to get, the support for that and to come back. I would have thought that time had expired by now in time for him to return to the Rumble. He seemed to be a very big fixture of WWE last year. I would have imagined him to be in line for that same thing this year. Rumble would have been a wonderful way to introduce him. Again, wrestling is secondary to his personal well-being and health. So if that's still ongoing, which I have no idea, then clearly he shouldn't have been back in the Rumble. I also enjoyed the match quite a bit. I wanted to spend a few minutes. This is what I've really been wrestling with all week. And you said, did you watch the whole event on Sunday? Were you able to watch everything? Okay.
Yep.
I watched everything up until about the middle of the women's Rumble match on Sunday. And then Monday evening, I finished the women's match and went and watched the main event. I was able to stay pretty spoiler free. I mean, if you as a fan and you've been paying attention to WWE, thought there was any way that Cody Rhodes was not winning the Rumble, then I don't know like what if you haven't been watching the product. I am interested. I had no inkling that The Rock was going to potentially be there. So can you give me just a little bit and the listeners a little bit of kind of where you were thinking with that? And then I'm going to go into the Cody Rhodes kind of the thing I've been wrestling with all week.
Yeah, there was some. Well, I think some people worked themselves into a shoot a little bit. There were lightning bolts on the poster, so there was the whole electrifying piece. Now, lightning bolts it's not like The Rock has ever, used lightning bolts as a big thing. Well, maybe with Black Adam, I think there's lightning bolts involved. I haven't watched Black Adam yet.
Wasn't he also the most electrifying man in sports entertainment?
He was, and that was, I think, where they were kind of coming from. And of course, there is the, everybody kind of has figured that Hollywood was the year, for Rock and Roman, and it sure doesn't seem like it's happening. I mean, I think if it was going to, the Rumble would have been the place you would have seen The Rock, whether it was in the Rumble match itself or after the Roman Owens match or something. I think the fact that we haven't seen him yet, I don't think it's happening. And Rock had said he doesn't think he can be in shape for that match. I think we might have talked about this 2 weeks ago. Like, I kind of thought that was a red herring, to be perfectly honest. Because The Rock isn't going to say, like, on Twitter, oh, yeah, I'm coming back for WrestleMania. I mean, he's not going to say that. Like, they're going to reveal him on TV somehow. And so I wondered if we'd see him. I stayed off social media because I didn't want to know anything about the Rumble. The one, I almost got spoiled on the Cody thing, although when you kind of know what's happening, is it a spoiler, even if you see it confirmed? Because there was an email that came out on Sunday from Peacock that said Royal Rumble replay. That was just the subject. And I was like, well, that's a weird, it didn't say like watch the Royal Rumble replay. It just said Royal Rumble replay. And I was like, oh, I wonder if there's a problem with the replay and I'm not going to be able to watch it when I get home. So I clicked on the email and all I saw was the picture of Cody and it said, watch the Rumble. And it was just a picture of Cody. And I was like, well, that might tell me the Cody won. But then in my head, I thought, well, okay, that's the, like, next to Reigns winning. That's the most obvious thing I have. So, oh, well, even if that did get kind of spoiled. But anyways, that was where the Rock thing came from. There was no part of me that was going into the event thinking, oh, yeah, we're definitely getting the Rock. Would I have jumped off my couch if we did? Probably. But that was where it came from. So what have you been wrestling with Cody? I'm curious.
Yeah. So again, like I was very into Cody Rhodes landing in WWE last year, even with all the pomp and circumstance and the debut at Mania. Like, it wasn't like, I didn't feel like that was incredibly forced down our throats. Some people may have, right? And I think Cody is personally a very polarizing performer. And maybe I'm the only one that feels this way, but I think that because of how he presents himself, how he carries himself, you can either really be into it or you can probably really be turned off. I'm neither, but I lean towards the being turned off, and I'll get more into that. So then Cody has a pretty incredible as probably too strong of a statement, a very strong run from WrestleMania to June. And then he gets hurt and has that incredible, considerable match of the year performance with Seth at Hell in a Cell, and then has to leave. So then the story goes, all right, and the story was already kind of being told when he first came back. Like, he's here because he wants to do the one thing he's never been able to do. And there's the Rhodes legacy and all of that. And then it gets halted because of the injury. So we get the vignettes and the promos and the video packages in January leading up to going, hey, he's going to come back, and he's going to come back at the Rumble. And then you have him come in at 30. And so even though he had a really solid showing, that's arguably the easiest spot to come in at the Rumble. So again, so if you think Cody's polarizing and you think that he's had things provided to him or handed to him, that's one more argument in favor of that. He wins and it's fine. And then going into the promo that he cuts on Monday, it's like, for me personally, it seems like it's a slam dunk that he's going to be the person to dethrone Roman. And I think that's probably a really good decision if that's the way they go. I think, however, though, since maybe that was one of the original like trajectories, let's remember when he came in, we had Vince McMahon fully in charge of creative. That has since changed. Is there greater story in Cody coming up short at WrestleMania and someone else dethroning Roman, or Cody dethroning him down the road? Or is there something else that could go on? So I feel so overall, I just feel like I enjoy Cody overall. However, like from a fan perspective, I tend to skew more towards disliking him because of the way that I think that he is a polarizing figure. And I don't know how other people feel, because I think when you listen to the crowd reaction and you watch on TV, it's the opposite of how I'm feeling. So curious to know your thoughts and opinions in that space.
And that was what I was going to say, is it seems like the crowd is on the other side from you. And that's okay. You know, that's the beauty. We can all, it's subjective, right? Subjective. I think that's right. But I'm enjoying Cody. I agree. I was a little surprised he came in at 30. I thought the story they told with Gunther might have been the one they would have told with Cody, like him coming in at 1 or 2. Now they turned around and did that with Rhea. So I guess I understand you can't do that twice on the same show. But then again, you didn't have to do it with Rhea. So I think it would have made more sense, honestly, to do it with Cody, to be perfectly honest. Now, part of me wonders.
And just to jump in there, he could have easily, like, so I think of Ric Flair 92. Granted, different circumstance, but like Cody could have come in at 3, right?
Right.
And then there's this like struggle of he and Gunther still gets the record, which I believe he does now hold. But then Cody goes, okay, yep. And Cody goes just like you know, the legendary Ric Flair. I've now, like, you know, I don't know. I didn't give that too much thought, but just cause I think Cody's love for the histrionics behind professional wrestling would have been a nod to that.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I did think he was coming in early. I wondered if maybe he wasn't, like, I think the story is he got medically cleared that day. I think that's a little bit of story.
Cody, that's Cody you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure you noticed this too. How present is that scar? You know, at his right shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I did wonder though is maybe there's cardio shape and then there's ring shape, right? And maybe because he was coming back, maybe he or they felt that he wasn't in ring shape yet to go that long. You know, so maybe they wanted to bring him in a little later. I also wonder if they left him for 30, because of course everybody knows Cody's coming. So when 29 guys come in and there's only number 30 left and you know who it is, you're not going to start chanting Sammy, Sammy, Sammy.
Yeah.
And that might have been really smart of them, because in my opening with the Men's Rumble, you're probably also not doing that too, because I think if you would have flipped those matches and had the world title match earlier in the card and the Men's Rumble closing, people would have wanted Sammy, unless they did the ending they did. But you can't do that ending anywhere but the end of the show, frankly. So,
and I saw, I don't want to go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wonder if it was a little bit to protect against the Daniel Bryan situation from a number of years back.
Sure. And I don't want to get off the Cody topic unless we just put a pin in it there. I did see a lot of, at least in the circles that we together are connected to, a lot of like energy around Sammy being potentially in the Rumble. That was never something that I considered. What were your thoughts on that? And did you anticipate he was going to be a participant?
I didn't.
Okay.
Unless, Roman had said the final test was coming at the Rumble, unless they would have said, well, your final test is you're going to go win the Rumble. So at WrestleMania, I can, you lay down and let me pin you kind of thing.
Yeah.
That could have been a story. And then Sammy wins the Rumble, of course. And then he says, screw you, I'm going for the title, and we're off to the races the way we are now. I think Sammy works a lot better as a challenger here at Elimination Chamber, which I expect is going to be the main event of Elimination Chamber. Him in Montreal, I mean, that crowd's going to be just banana, as Pat Patterson would have said.
Very bunch of banana.
Bunch of banana. So I think that works a lot better. And I love Sami Zayn. I just don't see Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania as the main event. Like, even though the story tells me I can get there, I don't know. I just don't quite get there personally.
And to jump kind of way down the pathway, if we do get that match, which is interesting that we would still get that at Elimination Chamber, and I'm hoping we do, and I imagine that's going to be incredible. They're already saying the main event of WrestleMania is Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, which is true today. But like for you to go and make and put graphics up when there's potentially someone who could challenge Roman between now and then, it's not, the undisputed WWE champion will face Cody Rhodes. I don't know. I always kind of get persnickety in that space.
And they could always say after because right now there's no title match scheduled officially between now and Mania. They could always say if that title match gets added, and the winner will go on to face Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Sean Ross Sapp talked about this week, is there a world where Cody, I think kind of what he was not reporting this. He was saying, like, is there a world where this could happen? Sure. Could Cody say that Universal title is a made-up title? That's a thing. That's something you all made up. I want the WWF title, WWE title. That's the one with the lineage that my dad won and it got taken away from him. That's the belt I want. I don't want that Universal title, that y'all made up. Now, you'd have to say it a lot. You'd have to come up with a better way than I just did, but basically that being the crux of it. And so on night 1, Roman faces Cody for the WWE title and loses. And then on night 2, he gets a rematch with Sammy because of some sort of shenanigans at Elimination Chamber, and Sammy wins the Universal title. And then Roman descends into madness because he lost back-to-back matches after not losing for, years. Sure. And that could be an interesting story. And ending after I just said I don't see Sami Zayn, like that sort of a split thing, I actually in my head can get around better than just Roman versus Sammy. Even though the story, like I said, the story's there. It's very, very there, especially after last Saturday. So I don't know why I can't quite get there yet. But again, I love that I get a chance to watch it all play out and that I'm not just like, oh, we're doing Roman Brock for the 9,000th time. Cool.
Well, and to that end, like what I'm thinking is going to happen is I'm thinking we're getting Roman Sammy, or whether Elimination Chamber, which it seems to be the perfect ground for that, or somewhere else, they could do it. I would imagine with the right amount of time, if it wasn't the premium live event, they could do a huge rating on SmackDown. If they really were strategic about that, that the Usos are the ones that end up costing Sammy, and then because of that, we get the reuniting of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, right? They're going to tease that out. So from again, I don't think when Friday Night SmackDown happens tonight, I don't think you're seeing hugs and kisses from Sammy and KO, even though they're going to milk that cow as long as they can. But the idea is Sammy gets screwed out of the title, even though he clearly has it won. And because of that, Sammy goes, okay, well then let me reconnect with KO. Or again, I'm oversimplifying it, but that match, the idea of that tag match, and them being the ones to dethrone the Usos, for one of the sets of belts, because clearly, again, like we've been discussing a couple of times here, they're gonna break them off. Like, why do you do a smack unless we're all foolish? And the reason for the SmackDown tournament is just to give the Usos one more team on their resume. I don't know.
Well, and the interesting piece of that is Kevin Owens on Raw, Sami Zayn's on SmackDown. So they could win them both. Like, I don't know. I think that's the more likely. I think Cody and Roman, I think if you do this right, and they're so far doing it really, really right, you have Sami get screwed at Elimination Chamber. Jey Uso reveals that he's staying with the Bloodline, because I thought that was a very interesting twist they had with Jey walking off, with tears in his eyes, torn by the whole thing, because he was against Sami joining the Bloodline at first. Then he came around and Sami was like a brother. And then this happens on Sunday night, which was played out just beautifully. And I love that the announcers laid out that they just dropped. It reminded me of Ring of Honor. Every once in a while, they'd have a main event match and the announcers, the play-by-play guys wouldn't announce it, just let you watch the match. And I love that the announcers just dropped out and let it play out on TV and you just watched it. That was beautiful production. After an earlier production snafu that we can talk about when we touch on the Women's Rumble, which I know we got to watch our timing here so we have picks, but I thought it was beautiful. I think you have Sami get screwed. If KO comes out, makes the save from another beatdown, again, banana in Montreal. I mean, that's just, that crowd is going to, and I think that will help drive, the crowds on the road to WrestleMania from the chamber. I think you could main event night one of WrestleMania with Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn versus Usos.
Absolutely.
I think that could main event WrestleMania night one. And I'm sorry to the women who deserve it, Rhea and Charlotte and whoever Bianca faces, which I have a terrible feeling could be Ronda Rousey coming back. I don't want that. I want Asuka. Give me Bianca Asuka, because I'm loving this new direction for Asuka after 1 week. But or Becky, if Becky's not going to be doing something with Bayley and Damage Control. But I'm sorry to the women because they deserve a main event slot at WrestleMania. But this story has played out so well that a tag team title match main eventing one night of WrestleMania, who would ever thought that? Like,
so here's the thing. I love everything you're laying out, and I really want that because we have Vince back in the mix. Whether he's at all a sliver of a rudder that's got a voice in someone's ear, he hates tag team wrestling. It's well known. He's not going to let a tag team match main event WrestleMania. It's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be Charlotte.
On my parade, man.
I'm sorry, dude. Like, believe me, I want to be on that bandwagon, but from all that I've heard, and again, I know nothing. I'm a fan, right? I have never worked for WWE. I never will work for WWE. I don't think.
Doesn't seem like it, right? It doesn't happen by now,
Every single thing I've been really, and I hope you have too. If you've not, I really encourage you to. I've been really digging into the FTR podcast with. I
haven't at all yet.
Dude, jump on it. It's really, really, really good. Just there's a number of nuggets that Dax Harwood speaks to his WWE time and the reality. I was about to call it the perception, but it's not the perception. The reality of how tag team wrestling is viewed and was viewed, especially during his time as a main roster talent. So all of that being said, before we jump to the women, because I definitely want to talk about Rhea, and I definitely want to talk about Rhea Charlotte and why I think it really deserves to be the main event on night one. Anything else on Roman, KO, and Sami? Because that tremendous, number one, tremendous match in my opinion. Nuclear angle afterwards. Good. I'm happy that it happened because I'm happy for the progress. But I would argue that it's immaculate storytelling.
The Bloodline might be one of the and Sean Ross Sapp said this earlier in the week, so I don't want to sound like this is just my thought, but I've had the same thought. It may be one of the best storylines WWE has ever done. And it spans two regimes. Like, it started under Vince and it's continuing under Triple H. Kudos. Hat tip. You got to call it, we pick on WWE a lot when they do stupid stuff. And rightfully so. but you got to tip your hat when they just knock it out of the park, and they've knocked it out of the park at almost every turn with this bloodline angle. I'm sure there's been a blip here or there if somebody wanted to nitpick. Yeah, but what about the Raw and November where this happened? Okay, fine, one thing, whatever. But all in all, and especially Saturday night, 100% kudos.
Yeah.
As much as we could go on about Reigns, we do have a time frame today, so let's pin that, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it a lot as we go to Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania coming. But the Women's Rumble, I thought, also was really good. I liked that they had NXT talent there. No NXT talent in the Men's Rumble, interestingly, but the 3 or 4 at least. Indy, Zoe, Roxanne, and I could be forgetting somebody over in the Women's Rumble.
Did you say Zoe Stark?
Yeah, Zoe Stark, Indy Hartwell, Roxanne. I just meant those 3. Michelle McCool coming out of the front row, which was kind of fun. I actually thought they were going to do that spot with Pat McAfee in the Men's Rumble when Pat came out, and wasn't he great? After WWE has changed the name or gone away from the name of Sheamus and Drew McIntyre from the Banger Bros, because there is a adult site with a similar name. And how does somebody not research these things? Well, it's good to see that at least it wasn't just the old regime. The new regime can't do any research either. They apparently have hired the 2 Spot Monkeys crew for research, because they're doing about as much research as we do, apparently. And not that we do research around that name, by the way. We're not saying that. But Pat McAfee just couldn't help himself to keep bringing it up in just different ways. I enjoy the heck out of Pat McAfee as an announcer. So that was fun. I thought he was going to do the old Jerry Lawler spot of the music plays and, I got to take my headset off because I'm in the Rumble. They did that instead with Michelle from the front row. That was fun. Rhea winning. I picked it, so I think it made total sense. She looked like a badass, excuse my French. I'm looking forward to Rhea and Charlotte. And I'm not surprised she didn't pick Bianca. Rhea Charlotte is the story because of the match at the WrestleMania with no attendance.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I love this so much. I love that it's an opportunity at a redo and arguably on a much bigger stage. So
much bigger.
The only thing
Rhea's at a way different level now than she was a couple of years ago.
I totally agree. The only thing I'm not a fan of is her connection to Judgment Day. And it's not been a bad thing, but I feel like you could easily break her off and she can stand on her own. Like, I don't know how or when you would do that, especially because of the Dominic thing.
I wonder if you're going to see, though, not a breakup of the Judgment Day, but a little bit of just her being focused on more as a solo and still touching base with the Judgment Day from time to time, especially around the Dominic stuff. But her being focused on more by herself, if that makes sense. I wonder if that might happen, because I think the same thing. The Judgment Day is, I enjoy the Judgment Day, but they're not a top of the card act the way they've been booked. And it doesn't seem like they're going to be, which is sad, because I think Finn Balor in the world title picture is something I really want. But it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen again now at this point. But at least they went away from the goth, almost, rip off of the Brood thing they were doing when Edge first started. And now they're just like jerks who like to party. And, kind of thing. And Dominic's, prison Mike from The Office or whatever. But, and Dominic actually has shown some decent character work. And I thought he looked okay in the Rumble. And they furthered that. If we're not, interestingly, when I listened back to our predictions back from the end of 21, so for 2022, I think that's what it was. No, it was our September. I'm sorry. It was our last show before we took our hiatus. That's what it was. Before we came back, I tried to listen to some of that show. And we were talking about the Dominic and Ray thing because it had just happened at Clash of the Castle. The turn had happened. And we said, boy, could they stretch this out and not give us Dom versus Ray until Mania? And we both agreed, well, that'd be crazy. There's no way they can wait that long. It sure seems like that's what we're getting. And if we don't at this point, what are we doing? Why have we not just moved off of it if we're not getting it? Anyways, Women's Rumble I thought was really strong. I love that Rhea and Liv both kind of went the distance. Both went the distance. I thought that helped make Liv look strong. I love that the 4 people who qualified already or automatically qualified into the women's elimination chamber were the last 4 outside of Rhea. So you're rewarding them for lasting to the final 5, I guess, of the Royal Rumble. Like, that made sense. It wasn't just, you didn't just randomly put people into the elimination chamber. There was a reason. Adam Pearce actually sounded like he knew what he was doing as a general manager. And then you have what I think is going to be really fun. You have Chelsea Green coming in as like this, and I apologize because this name means something very different in your world, but as a Karen, and coming up to Adam Pearce, somebody, are you the manager? I think this is going to be great. Is she going to be top of the card with this? No, but I think, oh my goodness. And then for her to come in, complain, and immediately get thrown out, like, I'm already digging the Chelsea Green return.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know that I can add much more. Again, this is the Rhea that I think we've been waiting on. Yep. So I'm excited about that. And I can't tell you how, like, the promo on Monday and her choosing Charlotte and the words behind it, I felt that connection. And for them to be able to have this opportunity now that they should have had in 2020, and even if we had never had COVID and WrestleMania in 2020 had happened at Tampa in front of fans, I still would be excited for this match, because I guarantee you that whatever would have gone on there and the aftermath would have still built to where we are now. We have what we have, and it has built beautifully. So WrestleMania is just starting to get going. We're less than 60 days away, which is super crazy to think about. Yep. And I can't wait to see where we land with that. I believe we're not doing any big family spring break stuff. So I'm pretty confident I will be around, and in the ability to watch Mania kind of like live for the first time in like a couple of years.
Nice. I am planning. I'm trying to plan on getting that Friday off work. It's a little tough with not a lot of PTO right now. But I may work the weekend prior so I can take that Friday off something, so that I can watch some of the other shows that happen Thursday night. WrestleCon Super Shows Thursday night, some of the GCW stuff. And can I just say really fast, and then I know we got to move into some other stuff. So for Fight Plus, it's $5 a month. So for $5, you're going to get El Hijo del Vikingo, Vikingo, I can't say his name right, versus Mike Bailey at Spring Break. Holy what? And then Kota Ibushi's going to wrestle at Spring Break. I'm going to guess he wrestles Joey Janela. That doesn't excite me as much because Janela, whatever, but it's going to be hard for Janela not to book himself against Kota Ibushi. Let's be honest. But you also get Kota Ibushi versus Mike Bailey at Bloodsport. And that's only 2 matches of the collective. I mean, I sound like I'm a shill for Fight Plus and GCW, but good Lord, how do you not spend $5 for those 2 matches alone? And another Kota Ibushi match. Like I said, I expect Joey Janela and the other craziness that they're going to have on those shows. Holy crap.
Yeah. And in just less than 2 weeks, they have the JCW tournament with all of these wonderful,
and that's free on YouTube.
Juniors. Oh, it's free on. Gosh. Well, I mean, I'm still paying my $5 because I think it's on Fight Plus too.
Maybe that is on Fight Plus.
Either way,
JCW shows are normally on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah. Because I recall when they had Konosuke Takeshita against someone last year, I was like, okay, I'm already digging this dude. This is free on YouTube. I got to watch it. So.
And you weren't upset by that choice. I'm quite sure.
No.
I mean, Game Changer Wrestling is just, I wish I had more time to give them.
I want them to tell me when they're coming back to Michigan. You keep announcing dates, GCW. Come on, Brett Lauderdale.
And speaking of announcing dates, AEW announced this week house shows, house rules. So I'm hopeful. They haven't gotten to Nebraska yet. Maybe they can bring a house show this way. I'd live with it as much as I want a Dynamite to go to or something like that. Like, I'd do a house show. AEW, come to the middle of the country. It's okay here. Nebraska, a number of years ago, 2018, 19, came out with a new tourism slogan that said, Nebraska, it's not for everyone. And it's not, but it's for AEW. Come to Nebraska, AEW.
Yeah, I thought the new slogan was, it's okay here.
It's okay here. That's why I don't work for the state of Nebraska. Well, we have got about 15 minutes left here today, maybe just a couple minutes more than that, 18. But we need to get to head-to-head picks for Vengeance Day. Let me just say on the Rumble really quick, Bianca Alexa was a little short. I thought it was good, but fine. Uncle Howdy stuff. I like that storyline. I know a lot of people don't. I get it. I like it. Bray Wyatt versus LA Black was super short, but looked really cool.
Who's LA Black, though?
LA Knight. Sorry. Well, maybe now that he's been sent to hell, he's going to be LA Black.
Pitch black.
I thought Uncle Howdy's twisting coffin drop off the staging looked cool. It was a cool spot. And sign me up when Mattel puts out the Bray Wyatt figures from the Royal Rumble, because, yep, those were toyetic if I ever saw. I don't know what that thing on his face at the end was. Again, I think that'll be interesting to see. But I like the Bray Wyatt stuff. I don't know.
It's definitely unique, and it draws you in, whether you like it or not. Like, you're definitely looking at this spectacle of it, not like the entertainment component,
right,
not like the pro wrestling. And again, we run in a circle with a lot of people who are very much like pro wrestling, and they can't see that. So I think you and I have enough discernment to go, all right, we can step back and look at the whole thing. We're not, right, you don't love it. It's like a buffet. You don't like shrimp, you don't grab 7 shrimp, but you might grab 1.
Right. Yeah. Bray Wyatt and LA Knight and the whole Bray Wyatt storyline, should it be the world title picture? No. But does it have a place? I think it does, and I enjoy it. So it is what it is. All right, head-to-head. NXT Vengeance Day, we have 6 matches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes.
The first NXT Premium Live event outside of Orlando in 4 years? Since 2019, right?
I think so.
No, I think maybe early 2020. Wasn't the February event? February
there might have been that's what I was trying to think. There might have been an early. So it might be 3 years.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah.
Still cool. I heard something from yesterday's media call. I think that they're expecting about 5,000 people. I have no idea what the venue holds for Vengeance Day, so I don't know if it'll look fine. WWE does a really good job of moving people and their production. Although here's my one thing about production. Asuka, when she came out for the Rumble, her music hit, which I didn't catch. Everybody's music's so generic almost anymore, unless they have like a line at the beginning of it. So it didn't catch me right away that it was Asuka. The crowd went bonkers, and they just showed like a wide shot of the crowd for like 5 seconds before finally a graphic came up. I mean, like, WWE's production is usually on spot, and I don't know if everybody fell asleep or was eating a sandwich right then, but like, what are we doing there? It was bad. Like, I was like, what is happening right now? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's Asuka. Okay. Nobody's ready for Asuka, including the production people. We're not ready for Asuka.
Nobody's ready for Asuka. Yes.
I like the new look though for Asuka. So
it's awesome. No, and again, if you've ever seen her in her when she was known as Kana, looks a lot like what she her look and her persona then. So that's super cool. Yeah. All right, so Vengeance Day, 6 matches. You and I are going to go back and forth like we always do. I get to pick first because I'm underneath right now at the 4-1 mark to your 5-0. So what is our first match for this event?
2 out of 3 falls. Apollo Crews versus Carmelo Hayes. And when this got mentioned on NXT, I think a week ago, because I have not seen NXT this week, it took me a minute to forget or to remember that Carmelo Hayes wasn't the North American champion. Like, I'm just so ingrained with him in that belt that I was like, oh, wow, that's for the North American title. Okay. And then I was like, no, wait, there's a different match for the North American title. This is just 2 really good wrestlers.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting build. There was a segment where Apollo Crews went to the barbershop, which is Carmelo Hayes' barbershop. It's like, why would you dare go get your haircut there or get yourself lined up? So that kind of like was how this let's go 2 out of 3 falls came about. It's fine. I think Apollo Crews has had the opportunity to be able to get more of an opportunity in NXT, and maybe that comes to an end here. Maybe it grows after this. But Carmelo Hayes is my pick to win. I do think, and I know we've talked a little bit about it, when you look at kind of the current NXT landscape, it seems that Carmelo Hayes is the guy who maybe is the next NXT champion and would be the guy to dethrone Braun Breaker, perhaps. So I think this is that next step towards that by winning the feud with Apollo Crews.
Yeah. I think it's most likely Carmelo Hayes at Stand and Deliver with Braun Breaker, like you just said. So I'm going Carmelo Hayes as well. It could, Dragon Lee could show up here, not in this match, but on Saturday and be the challenger at Stand and Deliver. But I think you could do something else with Lee to help build him. I don't know that you want to do the title match right out of the gate with Dragon Lee, because I think there's a fair amount of the WWE crowd, or the NXT crowd too, although NXT crowd seems to be a little more, indie savvy, who's going to need to get to know Dragon Lee a little bit. So I don't, that would be the only other match I could see for Breaker at Stand and Deliver. I certainly hope they don't do something that makes it be Grayson Waller again. I like Grayson Waller. I just don't, that's not Stand and Deliver. I'm fine with what they've done so far with it. I think it ends here on Saturday. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Carmelo Hayes is my pick here. I can't see Cruz beating him 2 out of 3. But I think this is the one match that I said there's at least one that makes me go, ooh, I'd like to see that. I would like to see this. I think it's going to be really, really good. So Carmelo Hayes. Then we go to the NXT Women's Tag Title match. Kayden Carter and Katana Chance versus Fallon Henley and Kiana James, kind of the odd couple tag team that WWE just can't get away from doing. No matter if it's in NXT or the main roster, they love doing these teams that can't get along. I don't see any way Carter and Chance lose these belts here. Carter and Chance keep the belts. I think Henley and James are too dysfunctional. I think they have a spot or two where it looks like they're going to work together and win them, and then, they fall apart. I honestly think Kayden Carter and Katana Chance hold the belts until we finish this Alba Fire rebrand they're doing with Isla Dawn, which I've seen coming for a little bit, so I wasn't surprised that I read that was where it was headed, or it seems like where it's headed was I was reading the report this week. I could see them dethroning Carter and Chance, maybe even at Stand and Deliver at some point, and really establishing that team. But yeah, I know Fallon Henley. I like Fallon Henley a lot. Kiana James, I can kind of take or leave right now. I will tell you, this is totally an aside, really quick, on NXT Women, but the one that has my eye is Sol Ruca.
Yes,
I like what
agreed.
I see Sol Ruca.
100% agreed.
I don't think I've seen any promos outside of like the little video package they do, but I'm curious to see, can she talk? How she do on that? And she can learn that. But
there was a backstage segment that they showed, which gave us kind of the why the first match this past Tuesday took place. Okay. And she had she interacted.
Interaction.
So yeah, and it's totally fine. I don't know. She seems relatively new to the world of pro wrestling.
She is. She was a gymnast, I believe.
Okay, so yeah, again, there have been far worse. So we'll say that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've seen that. So, anyways, that was a quick aside. But I got Carter and Chance winning this match.
Yeah, same thing. They're gonna break up Henley and James here. There was something with them. They did an interaction backstage. James is, I think, like pulling the wool over Brooks Jensen's eyes, but Fallon Henley is sniffing that out. Again, long story short, hot girl, country bumpkin guy, clearly they don't match, but they're looking like they're matching. Well, we're gonna get the rug pulled out.
And ultimately, Fallon has feelings for Brooks, I think, is what we're doing here, but she doesn't want to say it. And
So that's gonna be part of this, but the champs retain.
All right. Well, the other tag title match, the men's tag title match, has 8 people in it because it's 4 tag teams. The New Day of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods defend against Pretty Deadly of Kip Wilson and Elton Prince versus Gallus of Mark Coffey and Wolfgang, and versus Chase U, who won that opportunity in a triple threat tag match on Tuesday, Andre Chase and Duke Hudson.
Yeah, this is interesting. I kind of think Gallus would be the team that I would want to choose. If you were like, you have to pick someone who's not the champs. Because I feel like they were reintroduced back to NXT when they came back a couple weeks ago strongly. But they seem like they're going to have the issue with Pretty Deadly because of how they inserted themselves in what that gauntlet match was that Pretty Deadly was on to get this opportunity in the first place. Again, they're still here, even though they didn't win the gauntlet. Chase U being here makes me feel like they're the team that's going to get to take the fall. But it's fine. I'm not incredibly confident about this. And again, we make picks in our fantasy wrestling league. This will be a low confidence point one for me. I'm going to go with the New Day. I think that they're still like, this is the right place for them at the right time. And I think that they're probably helping to elevate NXT and the tag team division in NXT as other teams are solidifying themselves. So I'm not super confident because I can easily see, I think I would lean first to Gallus. But New Day retains.
Well, we're going to have our first difference here. I think this is the way to get the belts off the New Day, is to do it in a 4-way. They don't have to take the fall. Like you said, I think Chase and Hudson are there to get the fall. I could see a world where Hudson turns on Chase, because that's certainly been a story as to whether Hudson and Chase are on the same page, and whether Hudson really is Chase U or is he out for himself. Drew Gulak's been involved in that a little bit, and some other things. And I love Gulak being in NXT, by the way. I just think that's a really good use of him, because they hadn't done anything with him on the main roster almost ever, except for that cup of coffee with Daniel Bryan a number of years back. But I think this is the way to get the belts off the New Day and send them back to SmackDown. It's WrestleMania season, all that. Not that they haven't been on SmackDown. They were in the Rumble, all of that. I hope Kofi's okay, because the attempted Kofi Kingston Royal Rumble spot went very, very wrong on Saturday, and he crashed and burned pretty badly. I haven't heard anything about him being, significantly injured in that, but he was clearly not. He was supposed to land on that chair, and that chair... Jumping and landing on a chair with wheels seems like it's not going to end well. I'm just saying. And it didn't. And those wheels swirled, and I don't know that his foot ever hit the ground, but I also am not sure he knew where he was in that moment 100%. So, this could also be a way, if Kofi is hurt, you can easily hide him a little bit in this match too. I think we're getting the belts off, and I'm going with Gallus. I'm very much in that world where you were thinking of. Gallus makes the most sense. And I think then you go to Gallus and Pretty Deadly being the tag title feud. If Pretty Deadly isn't coming up to the main roster, because I think they could, at some point here, move them pretty easily. I'm not a huge Pretty Deadly fan, but I know a lot of people are. I don't know why they haven't just clicked for me, but I know a lot of people are. So I'm going Gallus. So there's our first difference. North American title match. Wes Lee defends against Dijak. I like this match. You got the big man versus the small guy. You got all of that. I don't buy Wes Lee as the North American champion. I have not since day one. And I don't know why. He's good. He's really good. Very, very good.
They haven't given him a chance, to be honest.
Right.
And how can you buy him if you don't even know what he's selling?
Well, maybe that's the problem here. And because of that, I'm going Dijak. I think Dijak wins the title here. Because I think Shawn Michaels and his crew are behind this new Dijak character. I like the new Dijak character. It's certainly better than T-Bar. But then again, anything's better than dog crap. So Dijak, I think Dijak wins title and becomes that dominating champion force that you have. I mean, you have that with Braun, but a heel dominating champion. And then there's the chase for who can knock off Dijak as he holds this title hostage kind of thing. I'm going Dijak.
See, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. And with the way they built him and the way they reintroduced him, and like he has a great platform now to like really excel in NXT, because he was there in NXT as Dominik Dijakovic, and then he got brought up, and then we know with Retribution and T-Bar and all that nonsense. I think actually that there's a lot of belief in Wes Lee, and that since he hasn't had the chance to really be established in this spot as the champion, that he's not going to lose yet. So I'm going to go Wes Lee. I hope that doesn't bite me in the end, because the logic would be like, yeah, big man Dijak does win title and does go on a reign of terror. And maybe that does eventually happen. And I think it probably should. I just don't think it's the time now to pull the trigger on that. Hope I'm right.
I think if Wes Lee wins, it's going to be like a quick schoolboy roll up or something. I don't think you're going to beat Dijak clean.
Yeah, or like a DQ or something
or
along
DQ
those lines.
Or something. Right. I could definitely see that. Definitely see. And maybe the rematch of this is at Stand and Deliver. Maybe this is something that they keep telling a story. Maybe this is one and done. Tom, you get the first pick on the NXT Women's title match. Roxanne Perez defends against both members of Toxic Attraction, Gigi Dolan and Jacy Jayne.
Yeah, Roxanne's retaining the title here. Again, I think we're looking towards whomever, again, at a big spotlight, Stand and Deliver, that Roxy will defend then. Maybe it's one of these two in a singles. Again, they've been teasing out that Toxic Attraction is breaking up and they're at each other's odds. They're not. It's been a ruse the whole time. And I don't know how this plays out where like they still remain constant. Maybe this is where they break up because Roxy gets the pin over one or someone finally turns on the other. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily have to happen. I think Roxanne can easily, show that she's fighting from behind this entire time and then overcomes two opponents to solidify herself as champion as we look down the road to whomever might be the challenger. Maybe Zoe Stark at Stand and Deliver. We'll see.
That would make some sense for Zoe. Roxanne's winning here. You're not going to put the singles title on either Gigi or Jacy at this point. I still think Gigi and Jacy are headed to the main roster before long too. I think they would be a welcome addition to a not very well defined women's tag division on the main roster. That's one thing I don't think Triple H has fixed in any way. It was not defined well under Vince, and here we are again. It's not defined well under Triple H. But I think they would help that roster as well. And they're both really good. I like them both, but neither one of them are winning the title here. Roxanne wins that, keeps her belt, and goes on to a big match at Stand and Deliver. And then we finish it off, Tom. Braun Breaker in a steel cage defends his tag titles. Yes, his NXT title maybe, against Grayson Waller. So let's see, that's me on the pick first. As we talked about, I think Breaker Hayes or Breaker Lee would be the Stand and Deliver match, most likely Hayes. So that just tells you Braun Breaker wins this match. I think it'll be really good. I think Waller will look like he's going to win it a couple of times. I think it's good for Grayson Waller to be having a series of matches and a story with Braun Breaker. I think that's helping to elevate him. But Braun Breaker keeps the belt here.
Yep, same pick as well. I don't think that you take the title off Breaker here. I think by him winning in the cage, however that wins, it puts the stamp on his his winning of this feud, for lack of a better term. I think there's a lot of room for Grayson Waller. He's been a really unique talent over the last year. I think when he was reintroduced, maybe it was the end of 21. I forget the timing of it all. I really liked, I thought I saw a lot of talent in him. He's shifted and his character is kind of really grating, but that's okay. There's a time and a space for that. And he's a good antithesis to the meat and potatoes good guy that Braun Breaker is, even though he's not totally cut from that cloth. So there we have it. All of our picks are in. Two differences: the tag title match and the North American title match. I almost called the United States title match, but North America is greater than the United States. So we will see. And my sunlight is coming in, so my distorted image for those of us watching on YouTube, you get ghostly Tom.
Ooh. Well, we are up against that time frame where we need to wrap things. Tom, anything else you want to say before we go tonight?
Yeah, today? So I don't think I'm watching Judgment Day, Vengeance Day. I don't think I'm watching Vengeance Day.
There used to be a pay-per-view called Judgment Day. So
yes, and there's also a faction. So yeah, I do intend to watch this, hopefully without spoiler. And next week we'll be back and we'll talk about this. We'll talk about our picks. Hopefully I am not down by 3 and so much more, plus our Super Bowl pick next week when we come back for the next episode of Two Spot Monkeys.
Yeah, and right now that's looking like it actually might be a late night Thursday night recording, but we'll keep you posted on Twitter and that sort of thing. For those who enjoy watching us live, or maybe could join us live in the evening and can't in the morning or something like that. So we'll keep. That was better for like 2 seconds. Yeah, there you go.
The sunlight is literally going right into the camera lens. So
you can tell. Everybody have a great week. Enjoy Vengeance Day if you're watching it. Enjoy whatever else you might be doing this weekend. We'll be back next week with more. There we go. Two Spot Monkeys Live.